Friday, everyone. We got a fun one for you today. It's like our chipper, but 2 rounds. Oh, good times. Before we get to that little piece of work, we're going to talk about our warm-up. Our warm-up is going to consist of the sumo squat for 1 to good morning for 1 in the sumo stance. We're just going to kind of go back and forth from that nice squat to good morning to open up those hips, knees, ankles. 3 to 5 times into our dynamic triangle, 3 to 5, which is also going to stem from our sumo stance. We're going to take it down to our plank lean for 3 directions for 3 reps, and our quad plank to down dog for 3 to 5. So nice little opportunity just to touch on everything in the body a little bit, make sure everything's fired up and ready to go before we start throwing around some loading. So our next phase is basically just a dumbbell complex. All right, so it's a dumbbell complex with a little bit of plank work in that hollow to work on the skills and getting ready for the work set to come. So what we have is a dumbbell deadlift for 3 reps, into a dumbbell hang power clean for 2, dumbbell front squat for 3, dumbbell push press for 2. So if you're doing this with a single dumbbell, do the entire complex on one side, flip to the other side, and then work on that complex on the other side, and then move into the plank walkout for 20 seconds. So you're going to work on walking into that plank walkout, walk back in, 20 seconds, total count, pausing on either side of the movement. But definitely if you're using a single dumbbell, go through all on one side and then all on the other side to get that nice complex feel as you go through the warm-up. If you need to add anything else in there in terms of practice for what's to come, please also do so, but don't overkill some of those pieces because the body parts necessary to be warmed up are kind of getting there in this work set anyway. But if there's a skill you want to practice, like the V-up, you can put that in there for a couple reps to make sure you're figuring out what you want to do in your warm-up. The workout itself is 2 rounds. You will do 20 dumbbell power cleans, Renegade Row for 20, which will be 10 per side, dumbbell front squat for 20, into a plank shoulder touch for 20 alternating, and then we have a dumbbell push press for 20, finishing up with 20 V-ups. So lots of work, lots of movements. It's a good time. So a couple things to think about if you are doing a single dumbbell. You can choose to do this one of 2 ways. You can alternate each rep, total count of 20, or you can do half reps, up to you. If you're using 2 dumbbells, obviously you'll just take them down, 20 reps straight up, and go from there. The Renegade Row, if you have 2 dumbbells, again, you can work on planting both dumbbells, 1, alternate 2, alternate 3, or you can do all 10 on one side, all 10 on the other side. That's your call. Keep it consistent though. So I want you to make sure if you choose to do it one way in the beginning, follow through in the second round the same way. All right, and that goes for the other movements as well. Try and keep it consistent round to round. It's a fun little work set, you guys. It's going to take maybe a little bit of breaking things up, maybe not, who knows, depending on what loading you have today. But I want you to really think about each individual movement piece as its own little work set. So really try and keep it clean, keep the movements moving well, and have fun with it. It's going to lead you into the weekend where we have 2 birthdays coming up on Saturday. Ooh, it's going to be a good time. But before we get to that, we got to get through this. So let's warm you up and get you ready. All right, let's get those feet under those hips. We'll take the arms big and tall. We're going to stretch it over to one side. We'll come back up and stretch to the other side. Come back up, we're going to shrug. We're going to come back down with those arms and touch those toes. We're going to walk up the shins, nice flat back. And we're going to take it all the way down to the floor, framing the foot. Step our foot back and square it up into our lizard. Take the inside hand all the way up, and then come back down. I'm going to take the outside hand all the way up, and we'll take it down. Inside hand all the way up, and down. Outside hand all the way up. And down, one more time, inside hand up, and down, outside hand up, and down. Step back into our down dog, just reaching those hips, setting those shoulders, hips, ankles, and then we'll come back into our plank. Step the other foot up, nice and square. Inside hand's gonna reach, big circular reach. Outside hand, let's take it up. Come back down. Inside hand's gonna scoop, and then come back down. Outside hand, gonna reach, outside hand's gonna reach back down, step it back into our down dog again. Setting those shoulders, those hips, just kind of sink into that position a bit. We'll come back into that plank, tiptoeing those feet up. And we're gonna roll ourselves all the way up. Big stretch, big clap, big reach, oh, and reach, oh. Good, come down with those hands. Let's get you guys ready to go. If you'd like to do some gentle warm-up on your own, pause the video, take that down for yourself, make sure you're ready to go. You can work on some wrist stuff, some thread the needles, more lizard lunge work, whatever you need. Take it down, and then come join me for our opening sequence. All right, our opening piece of the warm-up is gonna start in our sumo stance. So our sumo stance is just a bit wider than our regular stance. It's not super wide, because we still want to be able to track the knees over the toes. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get set up in this position, standing tall. I'm gonna take my hips to my heels, keeping nice and upright. So I'm gonna pull the hips down, pressing the knees out a little bit more than normal, but my toes stay flat. Then I'm gonna stand up tall. Then I'm gonna squeeze my glutes. I'm gonna pull the hips back into that hinge, getting that nice good morning, and then standing nice and tall. So we're just gonna bring those two movements together as we alternate back and forth. I'm gonna switch to profile so you guys can see that again in a profile position. Nice and tall, I squeeze, I pull the hips down into that good sumo squat position. I push myself up to standing, set at the top, pull the hips back with soft knees, big toes are down, weight is through the midfoot, and stand. So just taking it nice and slow, nice and steady, feeling out those positions to make sure we're opening up the hips and those hamstrings the best way we can. From that, we move into our dynamic triangle, which stems right from our sumo stance. So I turn one toe to the side, one toe on the angle, and the hips are open on that angle. Hand comes to the thigh, big press to the ceiling. I pull the hip back and I reach that hand way up to the sky the whole time, and then I keep reaching it up as I come back up to standing. So the big thing here is we initiate through the hip, and that's what tips the body. I have some good line of action going on with my angles, and then from here I keep pulling back as I lower the upper body down. So I've already created that space to continue traveling down my shin as I displace my hip. So really focus on that drawing into the hip, and that toe on that angle is what's gonna really help that out. So really focus on getting that toe turned from straight ahead to that kind of diagonal angle to open up that hip joint. Okay, makes it a little bit easier, it gives you a little bit more space to move. Now, after that, we're gonna move into some planking. So we're gonna move into that that plank lean for 3 directions. So I'm gonna get myself profiled so you guys can see the pull forward. My toes are together. I establish this nice plank position. So my ribs and hips pull in. I press my shoulders up. And I'm gonna keep my shoulders over my hands the entire time. I lean to where I can lean on the side to side. I come back to center. I'm active through the upper back and through the glutes. And as I pull forward, I'm keeping my hips level with the shoulders and the arms straight, and then I press back. So we really have to focus on keeping that back and hip nice and level as we pull forward, and not let the body droop down as we pull forward. Super easy to sink into those scapula or let the hips come down. So before we pull forward with the arms, make sure we set the body and not rush through those 3 directions. We're gonna venture into some more plank work after that in our quad plank to down dog. So after, we're gonna drop down to our knees in our quad plank, my fingers wide so I can grip the floor, my knees under the hips, and my toes curled under. I'm gonna set the shoulders and pull the ribs in, and I'm gonna lift the knees about 1 inch off the floor. I'm gonna hold for a couple seconds and push back into that down dog. Setting those shoulders, opening up that upper back, and then I'm gonna come back in, pressing through my arms as I lower the lower body down. It's very important that as I pull my body back into that quad plank, I'm pushing through those arms through the floor so I can allow my lower half the ability to do and move into position it needs to, and my upper body's holding strong, allowing that lower body to do what it needs to do. So focus, focus, focus on those shoulders and pressing into the floor. Now, quick little recap on that piece. We have a sumo squat for 1, to sumo good morning for 1, 3 to 5 times. Dynamic triangle, 3 to 5 a side. Plank lean, 3 directions for 3 reps. Quad plank for about 3 to 5 seconds to down dog, working on that good position. And if you need to break up those reps after the down dog to reset the quad plank, please do so. Don't worry about joining them, just break them up, set the shoulders, and move into a good position. 3 to 5 reps of that. 2 to 3 rounds, take that down, get your body heated up a little bit. We're gonna start tackling some dumbbell work right after this. So I have my dumbbell. We're gonna work on a nice little complex now. So we're gonna start with the dumbbell on the floor. And we're gonna start with our feet over top of the dumbbell. So the first deadlift can always be that sumo deadlift. And if you'd like to transfer it over to that conventional deadlift, that's totally fine. So turning profile, I'm gonna stand right over top of this dumbbell so you can see my back position. I pull the hips back and down. I get set. I find my dumbbell. I push through those legs, standing tall. Then when I take that next rep down, I'm gonna focus on taking the dumbbell down as deep as I can maintain that good back angle, and then stand. If I want to do my conventional, I'll bring my feet in a little closer. I'll have the dumbbell to the outside, my body square. I'll pull the hips back the same way, feeling those hamstrings and glutes. Weight is still through the midfoot, and then I push through those legs and stand tall. So either way is good. I'm happy with whatever style of deadlift you like. We just want to make sure that that back hinge is in good position, just like we used yesterday in our kettlebell swings. After that, we have our hang power clean. So from here, the dumbbell will come from the outside or between the knees. It's up to you. But I'm going to take the dumbbell to the knees in that good hinge. I'm going to push through those legs, opening them up, and then I'm going to land in that little power squat. Feet come back in. I pull the dumbbell down, pull back to my knee, and then I'm going to drive, and stand tall. My next movement is our front squat. So the dumbbell's already here. And technically my feet should already be in my squat stance, but adjust them if you need to. I'm going to push into my dumbbell, keeping that side body nice and engaged. Glutes are tight. I'm going to pull the hip to the heel, keeping the knees tracking the toes, and pushing into the dumbbell a little bit. I'm going to stand tall, opening up those hips and knees, and then I'll pull that hip back down into that nice smooth squat again, as deep as I feel comfortable. And I'm going to work that for 3 reps. And then I'm going to bring my feet in to my push press stance. So my feet are just outside my hips. I'm going to work that nice dip and drive. No pause, but that dip, I want you to think about that hip staying directly under the shoulder. So we're nice and strong and nice and stacked. So that when I do the movement at speed, I dip, drive. So the down is a little slower than the up, and that's okay. We pull to set, and drive. All right, so the down is always allowed to be a little smoother. So we're putting ourselves in a proper position, and then spring to action as we explode from that good set position from that dip. All right, so we have 3 deads into 2 hang power cleans, 3 front squats, and 2 push press. And then you'll repeat on the opposite side, or you'll have 2 dumbbells and you'll work on that as a complex with both dumbbells. When you're done that complex on both sides, what you're going to do is you're going to get yourself set up in our plank position again. And this plank walkout can be done from the toes or the knee plank. But establish that knee plank first from the toes so we can establish that good hollow position. From here, we're going to walk the hands out as far as you feel comfortable, maintaining that good hollow position and strong, stable shoulder. And then we're going to walk the hands back in. You're only going to take it out as far as you feel comfortable and what you can maintain in that nice, solid shoulder position. So if you feel more comfortable doing that from the knees, please do so. It's the same kind of focus. You're just taking a little bit of pressure off of the arms as you walk those hands out. So it's just a little less load on the shoulder from the body weight being taken down from the knees. So work that because it's going to allow you to experience that extended plank just a little bit more than you would from the toes. So there's nothing wrong with bouncing back and forth from both of those. You're gonna hold each position for a couple seconds each, and you're gonna keep walking in and out for about 20 seconds total. As a quick little recap for that piece, we have a dumbbell complex with a dumbbell deadlift for 3, dumbbell hang power clean for 2, dumbbell front squat for 3, dumbbell push press for 2. Doing it on both sides. 20 seconds of plank walkouts. And then if you'd like to put any extra movement in there from the workout that you need to practice a bit, add that in at the end of the plank walkouts, and we're gonna hit that for 3 to 5 rounds. Pause the video, take that down, work that, warm up, scroll back if you need some more points of performance review, but get yourself ready because we got the workout coming at you. All right, so the movements in the workout, we have 2 rounds. Power clean, Renegade Row, front squat, plank shoulder touch, push press, and via. So our dumbbell power clean in the workout is basically our deadlift, hang power clean, all joined into one. So what it's gonna look like, we're gonna take the dumbbell from the floor, wherever that happens to be it from the floor or from mid-shin, and you're gonna take that dumbbell up into that power squat from either between the feet or from that side position. So we're taking it anywhere below the knee, driving through the legs and the hips, landing in that power position. So unlike the hang, we're going to take the dumbbell somewhere below the knee. But I only want you going as deep as you can maintain that good back position. So that's why we really want to pay attention to the deadlift and the warm-up, because it's going to allow us to kind of see where our range of motion will allow us to go. So the power clean from the floor into that power squat landing. After that, we're going to move into the Renegade Row. And if we have 2 dumbbells, there's nothing wrong with holding 2 dumbbells and alternating, okay? Or keeping 1 dumbbell like I'm going to show you now, doing 10 on one side, 10 on the other side. I'll also show you a non-loaded variation, which is very challenging as well. So I'm going to get set up with my hand on the dumbbell, my other hand in my regular plank position. My feet are going to go about a squat stance position. I'm going to get nice and tight and stable, and I'm going to pull that dumbbell into my rib, put it down. I shift my weight a little bit to this balancing hand so I can pull into my rib and back down. Now from the side, just so you can see this positioning, I shift a bit, pull into my rib, close to my hip, and put it back down under my shoulder. So they're not fast, we don't use any momentum. We want to make sure that plank is very strong and established first. So we want to make sure we have that little shift so we can pull and not tumble forward. I almost did the other day when I was practicing these because I forgot to shift my weight. It was not going to look pretty, but I managed to catch myself and not finish the rep, we'll say. But make sure we shift, pull to the hip. Now, a non-loaded variation of this is a plank. We get ourselves set up in that squat stance foot. I shift my weight, and I just pull my empty hand to my hip, keeping the elbow in the same kind of row position, and come back down. So it's the same row, I'm just not using a load. All right, you'll still do 10 and 10, or you can alternate for a total count of 20. Now, after the Renegade Row, we have dumbbell front squat. We already covered the front squat in the warm-up, so if you need a review on those points of performance, scroll back, check those out, and review. But keep in mind, the front squat, it's a nice little piece in the middle, so you could use this as an opportunity to work quality, maybe go a little slower. Those arms are going to be a little bit more fatigued and the core will be fatigued, so maybe focus on a little bit more quality of movement here in the squat and let some pieces recover a bit in this work set. After that, what we're going to work on is a plank shoulder touch. So very similar to the row, except we're going to get set up in a plank. In this plank, if my feet are together, I'm going to have a little less balance, but if you'd like to, you can step your feet out to your squat stance or your hip width. What we're going to do today is we're going to shift our weight and we're going to touch the same shoulder. Shift, touch the shoulder. Shift, staying square, touch the shoulder. So we want to try and keep our shoulders and torso square to the floor, opposed to opening up to the side in kind of a side plank. We want to try and stay as square as we can to the floor as best we can. And it's always better, if you can, if you want to make it a little harder on yourself, hold that position for a moment. Don't try and hold for a beat, down, shift, hold for a beat, down, shift, and work on that nice control in that movement. It's tough, it's fun, I love it. Make sure we're stable in that plank. And if you have to break them down, break them down. After the plank shoulder touch, we're going to move into our dumbbell push press. Now the dumbbell push press, again, we covered in great detail in the opening sequence in the warm-up. So if you need some points of performance, scroll back to that, get yourself set, listen to those points of performance, then come back. Or, again, just focus on a good solid dip and a nice smooth drive. You can rebound, you can do singles, it's up to you. I want you to do what sets you up for the best movement possible. Now the last movement in our our workout is our V-up. And again, we have multiple variations for the V-up for you guys, and I'm just gonna go through them all. So our toes can be together. I'm gonna show the double leg V-up and then the single leg V-up. So we lay down, we get nice and tight, I snap up, I touch, and I touch, and I touch. So I'm shooting for those toes. You're like, no Dave, that's not happening. But I can do a single. I'm gonna sit up, meeting my thigh midway, and trying to touch my toes at the top. But I wanna make sure I'm getting my upper body off the floor and meeting my thigh midway at that motion, right at that midsection. Now, if the straight leg is a little bit too much, we can work on a tuck up. So we have a two-legged tuck up. So my torso is still meeting in the middle. Or I can do a single leg. Same idea, my body is coming up and meeting my thigh at that midpoint. If you're like, yeah, it's a lot of hinging, I kind of just want to stay a little lower but still get that good hollow in there, we can lay on our back, we can work our hollow ups. So we can work a double, we pull our ribs and hips in, pulling my shoulders and my feet off the floor a bit, working on that good hollow. Or I can do a single leg where I still get that good engagement through the ribs and the hips, but it's not as stressful to get that low back against the floor. Two more options for you, one of which isolates the upper body. We're gonna pull those feet up straight up in the air. My fingers are gonna reach for my toes. I'm going to pull my ribs and hips in, and I'm going to try to touch my shoelaces. My hands stay exactly where they are, and I'm going to reach and then come back down. I'm not using momentum. This is a strict movement, and it's relatively slow. So we want to think control and a good compression of the midsection. Last but not least, we have our pike sit up. So our toes are together. Our arms reach overhead. I'm going to sit it up. Using a little bit of momentum, reaching for my toes, coming back down. Touch. And touch. So lots of different variations for your V-up. We can have fun with those. Pick and choose which one everyone's going to further that V-up the most, or what you want to play with to kind of challenge you for today. Now, as a quick recap for this work set, we have 2 rounds, 20 dumbbell power cleans, 20 Renegade rows, 10 per side, dumbbell front squat for 20, plank shoulder touch for 20 total count, dumbbell push press for 20, and V-up for 20. So lots of reps, taking it down. Remember, there's 2 rounds to that. It's going to be a good time. The chipper with 2 rounds. Oh yeah. So play with this work set, you guys. You can use 2 dumbbells. You can do a single dumbbell, half on one side, half on the other, alternating reps if you'd like. Whatever you want to do, just try and keep it consistent for both rounds of the work set. As always, you guys, I'm looking forward to hearing about this work set. These are always fun ones, so let me know how it goes, what you chose to do for your V-up, how you did your work, alternating, whatever you chose to do, let me know. And again, have fun, work for quality, and we'll see you tomorrow for 2 birthdays. Exciting! Woo! All right, bye you guys, have a great day.